This is VRR, and you are listening to the Virtual Robots Revolt podcast. Welcome to the podcast. I am bringing you this topic on the PSVR not only because I love it, but because it's the right thing to do. Too many podcasts and YouTube shows, Twitch, etc., they just want to talk about the newest and latest, greatest thing. Most of the time, they're only talking about something they think people want to hear. Well, today I'm talking about something I want to talk about, and something I feel very passionate about. Most likely, it's become my favorite piece of technology I have, actually. So I just want to have more people be aware of something that is so awesome, and it's out right now, and you should get it ASAP. I got this on launch night, been playing it ever since, and it's not a substitute for 2D gaming, but I can't really imagine my life without it now either. Let's start it off though. So the PSVR overview. I'll just get that started here. Why should you get a PSVR? Well, hopefully you already have a PS4. So if you already have a PS4, then yeah, I do believe you should just go ahead and get a PSVR. If you don't have a PS4 yet, I still think you should get a PS4 and get a PSVR on top of that. Um, anyway, but why should you get it? It is next gen. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's not just like graphics are just a little bit prettier. No, it's like this is something completely different. It's something completely different. There's nothing else like it. They tried testing VR technology in the 90s, and it never really worked out. And I don't even think they had stereoscopic 3D back then. It was just you couldn't get immersed. It's all about tricking your senses into feeling that you're there. And if you just like strap like a television to your face, like a cell phone to your face, it's not going to do the same thing. So, and do you remember how you felt when you played Super Mario 64 or Zelda 64 for the first time? Um, it's like that, except crazier. At least for me, it was. Things might not look 4K or possibly even 1080p around you, but it is stereoscopic 3D, and you are fully immersed in the world of VR. My second point is you just need to try it. I mean, you don't know what you're missing until you try it. So unless you have an awesome friend such as me around who owns a PSVR, you most likely will just have to buy it to try it. But just do it. Yeah. If you hate it, perhaps you can return it wherever you bought it from. Uh, but today it's so easy to resell things. You can resell things locally with apps like OfferUp or Let Go or something, or you can sell it on eBay if you wanted to. Personally, I think you're just gonna love it though. So, but don't blame me if you don't. You've been warned. Um, and my next point is there's something for everyone on this thing. Uh, there's so many things for everyone on this system. My wife, she doesn't even really play games at all. She enjoyed this thing. Um, but don't buy it if you don't like playing some sort of games though, because at its heart, it is a game system. There's lots of cool things you can do with it that don't involve you playing whatsoever, but I'm not sure if it's worth the price tag at that point. If you make a lot of money, then I think it's yeah, go for it. But you can buy it for one 10-minute demo if you really feel like it. But for everyone else, I think you should still like some sort of games. But there's lots of things in here. I wouldn't even call them games. Like one of the funnest things on the system is a job simulator, and that's amazing actually. And it's really funny because in the game Job Simulator, it's the whole point of it is robots in the future. They're trying to figure out how humans behaved back in the olden times, which is present day for us. Um, and so they are recreating jobs that we used to have to do, and it's really funny how they kind of make fun of it all. And it's actually it's kind of a good summarization of some of it too. I know like the keyboard and the desk job is just a 0 or a 1. And I mean, at its core, everything is binary if you really want to make it that simplistic. But yeah. Um, but another thing I would say is it is here to stay. Um, you'll only see improvements on virtual reality. So, you know, it's either you're going to get into it now or you're going to get into it later. But if you get into it later and you didn't get into it now, I mean, you would have just lost all that time that you could have been enjoying yourself with the PSVR, Oculus Rift, or an HTC Vive. I mean, just get one of the three. I'm not saying you have to get one of the other, but I think you should get the PSVR personally. But I think all three of them are great, and uh, you're pretty much doing a disservice to yourself if you don't get it right now, unless you just don't want any distractions with whatever you're doing. But in my opinion, it's way more fun to mess around in virtual reality than watching the new Netflix series that comes on TV or watch your team lose in the playoffs again. I'm looking at you, Rockets. Damn you, Rockets! You better win this time. I don't want to see the Spurs win. I don't want to see that. Um, the Pistons have no chance. I'm just kidding around. But yeah. So, but anyway, damn you, Rockets. Looking at you, James Harden. You can get this done. Anyway, so but PSVR. Let's get back to it. PSVR. I think your time is better served in virtual reality. If you're using, if it's part of your hobby time, I think you should be into this hobby. Um, And another point is you're already missing out on great experiences with, especially multiplayer games. So there's a few multiplayer games out right now that there's a chance, whenever you get into it in the future, those games like are going to be borderline unplayable because nobody's playing them anymore because they're old. So some of those games are Battlezone, um, Werewolves Within, which is like completely multiplayer. Like I don't even think you'll be able to play that game at all in the future. I don't own that game yet, but that's one of them. Valkyrie, Eagle Flight, I believe, has some multiplayer. Um, Rigs definitely is multiplayer. So I mean, there's some really good multiplayer experiences out there, and if you're into that kind of stuff, you probably should get in right now while the servers are up, um, so you can play those games. And so let's move on to the next topic. So, you know, some of the best games out right now as of April 2017. What are some of the best games? I at the beginning bought every single physical release of a PSVR game they had, just because the prices were pretty cheap on these games. They ranged from $20 to $40. There was a couple like $60 games. But I had Best Buy Gamers Club unlocked, so I got 20% off everything anyway. So I played a lot of the launch games, the launch physical release games, and those were great. And I'll name some of those off, but there's been a ton of great releases come after that, and a lot of people don't know this because the PSVR got tons of coverage when it first came out in October of 2016. But since then, I mean, it hasn't gotten that much coverage with the exception of Resident Evil 7 that came out that's fully playable in VR. Other than that, like nobody's really talked about it, but there actually has been some really good games to come out. So let's start it off. So VR Worlds, if you get the bundle pack for PSVR, VR Worlds comes in it. If you just get the regular edition of PSVR, um, keep in mind, if you get the stock version of the PSVR, you still need to get the PS4 camera and the Move controllers. Well, the Move controllers aren't really required, but let's face it, you need them. But anyway, so if you get the bundle version, that includes all of it. It has VR Worlds. If you just get the stock one, it comes with the demo disc. And the demo disc has a demo of VR Worlds, but you need the actual VR Worlds. And that's like a collection of games, and the best one on there is the London Heist, which is um, you take your Move controllers or your DualShock 4 controller, and you're firing at criminals, and you're living out like an action movie basically. And the game is only like 20 or 30 minutes long, but trust me, it's solid. It's one of the best experiences on the VR. I'll just go ahead and spoil it for you guys right now, but um, on this little thing. But at the beginning, um, you actually are able to pick up a cigar, and I didn't know this. Nobody said anything to me when I first got this game. When you pick up the cigar, since there's a microphone built into the PSVR already, if you inhale, you are actually you can see the cigar like actually being puffed, like the ashes are kind of like the cigar is like disintegrating a little bit as you inhale, and when you exhale, you actually see smoke come out. So, and it figures this out with the microphone on the PSVR. So that's one of the coolest experiences I've seen on the PSVR. Just because I think it's that cool. There's been lots of cool experiences, but that one was really cool because I didn't expect it. Um, yeah, VR Worlds is amazing. There's a lot of other demos on there, or like small mini games that are great for everyone, literally everyone. Um, Job Simulator is a great one. I just described that. Until Dawn, Rush of Blood is an awesome kind of light gun game. You're on like a roller coaster mining cart, and you're firing at like haunted things. That's one of the best games on the system, hands down. If you don't like horror whatsoever, maybe you want to stay clear of it. But I'm not a horror guy myself either. But I just it's really not that scary. It really isn't. It's more cool than anything. Um, it's not like something's gonna like rush at. Well, actually, there's a couple of scare modes, but it's really not that bad. It kind of feels more like a haunted house kind of game versus like an actual scary movie. So it's like when you go into a haunted house, you kind of know what to expect. Like you're almost not that scared just because you know to expect something's gonna be there around the corner. Versus like a scary movie or like a really long scary game, you have no idea when something's coming, and then it's just that much scarier. So that's why I'm saying Until Dawn, Rush of Blood, it's not that scary. Um, but don't let your kids play it. Anyway, Batman Arkham VR is another great one. Hands down, one of the best games. Another $20 game, but it's worth it. It's a short game, but trust me, that is a very solid game. I highly recommend it. Res Infinite. That's actually the main reason why I wanted a PSVR at the beginning. Um, yeah, I always heard about the virtual reality. I actually tested the Oculus Dev Kit 2, which wasn't really available to consumers. I tested that back in 2015 or 2014, and I was blown away. That was one of the best experiences in my video game life, experiencing that. Um, but yeah, so ever since I heard about the PSVR, I was like, yeah, I was kind of interested. But then once I heard Res was going to be in the game, and Res is like a Dreamcast game. It was originally on the Dreamcast, came out in PAL and Japanese territory. PAL meaning Europe territories and Japanese territories. But only heard about Res about a couple of years ago. But ever since I've been a big fan. And I even painted my Dreamcast arcade cabinet here partly in Res, uh, the Res, logo and everything on here. Um, and that was before I even knew this game existed. So I'm a big Res fan. Res is kind of like on rails. It kind of looks like you're in the movie Tron. It's really awesome. That's all I gotta say. And that's like a $20 game. Or if you want to get it physically, im8bit.com sells it for like $40. And either one, just physical or digital, I highly recommend that game. Robinson the Journey. That's another great game. I recommend the PS4 Pro though, because I got the game when I still had a stock PS4, and the textures are less, on that. And this game, it actually, Robinson the Journey. Sorry, I forgot to describe the game. It's basically you crashed on a dinosaur planet, so you see a bunch of dinosaurs around. You're walking around and stuff, and um, you know you're missing out if you don't really use a PS4 Pro for it, but it still is a really cool experience with the regular PS4. Either way, I highly recommend it. I actually just beat that game recently, and it does get boring at certain parts, and there's a lot of scanning items and things like that. But it does actually pick up speed, and I'll just say that the ending is badass. That's all I'm gonna say. Um, but yeah, but yeah, well, once you're done with that game, it's kind of like you're kind of just done. You'll have to replay the whole game again because I tried fast tracking back to like where I was before, but like the enemies aren't there anymore. So I'm just gonna have to replay that whole game if I want to get that experience again. But anyway, Drive Club VR. As of as of right now, what I know is that is the only racing game on the PS4 Pro or PS4 Pro on the PSVR. I still believe it's the only racing game on it, and it's really good. The demo disc that comes with your PS4, or not PS4, well, that comes with your PSVR, it doesn't do it justice because I tried Drive Club VR on the demo disc, and that game made me so motion sickness. I mean, honestly, it was because I was looking all around, and if I did that in a real car when I was driving, I'd get motion sickness there too, just because I get motion sickness in cars pretty easily if I'm not driving. Um, but the Drive Club VR, it's way better if you actually get the real game. The textures and the resolution gets upped. So yeah, Drive Club VR, I still really recommend it. Battlezone is another one, especially with the new classic mode they added. The classic mode meaning, this was actually like an arcade game they released in the 80s, and it just used like wireframe graphics. Kind of looked like the movie Tron, but it was just black and green. But it looks amazing in virtual reality. It's on my YouTube channel right now. If you go to YouTube youtube.com/ virtual robots revolt, you'll see a demo of that game. You'll see a demo of a lot of these other games too. I've done a lot of gameplay footage for a lot of these PSVR games. Um, and yeah, that'll be on youtube.com/ virtual robots revolt. Another one is the Star Wars Battlefront VR mission. It's just a demo, but it's worth it. It's really good. Just to be in an X-wing uh, is mind-blowing, and it actually controls better than E-Valkyrie, even though E-Valkyrie is still a cool game. But it's really good. You need the Star Wars Battlefront game to actually use the demo, but Star Wars Battlefront now is like a $10 or $20 or $25 game. It's really not that much. And in my opinion, it's still a really fun game. I mean, there's basically no single player game on it. It's pretty much all multiplayer, but even so, I mean, the graphics look amazing. I think everyone should own it anyway. Eagle Flight is a great game. You're an eagle flying around Paris after it's already been overtaken by zoo animals. Basically, it's like uh, somehow the human race gets wiped out. They don't talk about it whatsoever, it looks like, but um, basically nature and tons of like random safari animals have taken over Paris. So the structures are still there, but there's no people and there's no cars that are moving. And you're flying around Paris, and that's a really cool game. I got it a long time ago, and um, in like December as a gift, and I need to play it more honestly. uh, Pinball FX2 VR. That's a digital only game, but I really recommend it. I know it's pinball. Not everyone is into pinball. Honestly, I wasn't that much into pinball for the longest time. I now own a pinball machine, actually, I own a Xenon pinball machine. So I really like pinball now. But even though I own a pinball machine, like I can play whenever I want, I still really like to play Pinball FX2 VR because um, you're playing like it's not like normal pinball games like you play in 2D. Like you actually feel like you're at a pinball machine in this game. It's all new tables, so it's nothing like oh I'll be able to play Adam's Family in VR. No, it's brand spanking new tables. So it's new experiences, new tables. The pinball tables are it's kind of like Zen pinball, like some of the things they wouldn't do in real life. Um, what's going on around you is really cool. Like you're playing like this one underwater table, and there's like eels that like just swim past you and stuff. Like it's really cool. And there's one haunted mansion kind of uh, pinball table you can play, and there's like things around you trying to scare you or whatever. Um, it's really cool. I think it's like 20 or $25 game or something like that. But you know, I think it's worth it. I think it's really fun. Another good one is Super Hypercube. One of the developers, the guy who made Fez, made this game. It's really cool. It's like Tetris, but it's in 3D. You know, in virtual reality 3D. I heard part of uh, the the inspiration for this game was, what if virtual reality existed in the 80s, like when arcades were first coming out, and that's how they came up with this game. So that's kind of like where like the neon sign at the beginning of the game kind of comes into play. Is it's as if like they were trying to figure out like what would VR look like if it existed in the 80s when arcades were first popping up. And once you think about that, it's really, really cool because you know, lots of orange colors are in this game, and you know, it's really cool. Basically, it's you know, there's like a Virtual Boy game kind of like this too, like 3D Tetris, but it's more than that. Like you have to peek around objects that are flying into like square pegs like behind it. It speeds up. It's pretty fun. Sports Bar VR. This is an interesting game. Um, I need to put more time into myself, but just simply the fact that you can enter this bar setting and you're actually meeting with other people who are wearing the PSVR headset. And this is another one of those multiplayer games you really need to get in right now to start playing it because it's its own experience. It's really cool. So you're in like a sports bar in here, and like you can play people in pool or ping pong or something, and you can just talk to them by walking up to them. Like you only go into a bar with like 4 or 5 other people. It's not like you're like in a bar with like thousands of VR headsets. It's like 4 or 5 people. You see like just hovering kind of like headsets around. It's not like they have like their own people or whatever. But just see these like floating headsets walking around the tables and stuff like that. It's pretty interesting, actually. I think it's like a $20 game, but you know, if you get it on sale, I do think it's worth it. I think it's an interesting experience. Um, and another game is Resident Evil 7. You probably already heard of it. It's you know, it's the seventh game in the Resident Evil series. But from what I've heard, I didn't play many of the other games. I played like Resident Evil Code Veronica on the Dreamcast, but it's not a third-person game. It's first person, and you are controlling the game with the DualShock controller and yeah, just like the regular PS4 controller, but you're using your head to kind of peek around things and to kind of like aim where you're walking a little bit. Um, but like, you know, if you can look completely around you, up, down, left, right. Um, I haven't played it yet. I have the demo. One of my friends have played it um, on my system. I'm kind of a chicken, so I actually did recently beat Alien Isolation completely. So I've heard the game is kind of like that, but I didn't play Alien Isolation in virtual reality. Like, so I did play the demo in 2D, but I didn't play it in VR. And I'm just a little scared to do that. And I will do it eventually, but I need to do it like in the middle of the day, and I never have a free time in the middle of the day. But eventually I will play it and see what all the fuss is about. But a lot of people are saying that is the system seller, and that is the reason to own a PSVR. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I haven't played it yet, but everyone else is saying it's like a system seller, so that's why I have it on my list of best games out for right now. Another game I'll put is Hyper Void. It's kind of like uh, Tempest a little bit, but you're like a spaceship, and instead of like just like a polygon kind of thing, uh, and you're going around like a circle, and objects are flying down at you, and it's really cool. It's a really cheap game, and I highly recommend it. There's a 2D version of it that's been around forever, and they made a VR version for it. I think it was like free on PS Plus a few months ago, after I already paid 10 or 20 bucks for the game. Go figure. But I still recommend it, even if you didn't get it back then, because I bought it and I really enjoyed it. Um, Yeah, and another one I would say is the Shin Godzilla experience. Um, you can only get this if you create a Japanese PSN account, but if you YouTube it, um, you can figure it out. It's free to set up a Japanese PlayStation account. You just kind of have to a couple of the menus you have to know. You have to look up on YouTube like what selection you should hit because it's all in Japanese characters. But after that, you can download it for free because it's a free demo. And you should do that as soon as you can if you ever want to play this, because this is one of those things they'll take off the PS Store eventually for people who haven't already got it, because it is just a demo. They're not making money off this. I hope they make a full game out of it, but honestly, it's only a couple minutes long, but it's amazing. And I'm a huge Godzilla fan, so I got this like day one because I had to. I actually, funny story is I went and saw Shin Godzilla like in the movie theater near this Best Buy, and then as soon as the movie was over, I went right to this movie theater, or not right to the movie theater. I went right to Best Buy to sit in line for the PSVR, which I didn't have to wait that long. But I didn't even know that this experience existed until later. Um, and then I immediately created my own Japanese account, and it took me just like a few hours, and I got it going. And oh man, it was so awesome. I actually got like over 5,000 views on that on my YouTube channel because nobody else really did it since then. And I saw like a few other YouTube channels. They did it after me. Like I know one in particular got like 100 views, but I recorded it like a couple days before him. But I still really recommend it, especially for Godzilla fans. It's a must. Just to see Godzilla to scale, like as if like you're just like this little tiny ant on the ground. I mean, it's amazing. Um, but yeah, so another thing I'll move on to is new games coming out for the PSVR. I've already pre-ordered this game, Farpoint. It's going to have like an awesome new kind of like light gun for it. It's not like something you'll put like your move controller into it, but it'll have its own sensor already built in, at least a better. That's from what I've heard. Yeah, so yeah, yeah, that's right. It'll be built in, but the light gun itself, it doesn't really look like a gun at all. But the whole point is once you have it, it has like you directional pads on it and stuff, and it's going to be awesome to use in this game. In Farpoint, it kind of looks like a Starship Troopers kind of game, but like you'll have this gun, and it looks like it's going to be awesome. That's going to be like an $80 game. Comes out in the middle of May, but I'm going to get it. I've heard good things. So. The next one I'm definitely going to get when it comes out like late May is the Star Trek Bridge Crew. And so you are going to take place of one of the crew people on the bridge of a starship in the Star Trek universe. And you'll act as if like you're on the Enterprise or something. And it looks awesome. Starblood Arena is already out. I haven't played it yet, but I've been hearing a lot of good things about it. It kind of looks like a better version of Eve Valkyrie, which is like a spaceship fighter kind of game, like very multiplayer based. So, but I should get it eventually. It's like a $40 digital game, I think. Yeah, no, they are making a physical version, so I think I should pick it up just for that. Mortal Blitz. I am definitely buying this game. This looks like the Time Crisis kind of game for the PSVR. Time Crisis meaning like you hide behind, uh, like objects, and then you peek out and then you fire at things, and it's all like in the future based, and um, there's lots of cool things you can use. I think you can like use some sort of magic at the same time as firing with your move controllers at the screen. It looks really awesome. I heard it's pretty short, but it is a $20 game, so it's not much, but digital only. But I'm definitely going to get it because it looks great. Um, this one I'm definitely looking forward to is Polybius by Jeff Minter. So I don't know if you don't know the story of Polybius or Polybius, I'm not sure which one it's called. That was like this urban legend arcade machine that existed in the late 80s, early 90s, that the apparently the government put in arcades to like record like what children were thinking of like psychologically so they could all super conspiracy theory stuff. And there's no like actual like recorded evidence that this machine ever existed, but tons of people, or not tons, but several people have said no, this machine existed. Like I played it. Um, so it's always been like an urban legend, like that this game existed or not. A lot of people said that if it did exist, it existed in like the Washington and state area. But I don't know. If you ever played it, let me know, because I definitely would like to hear more about it. It's very interesting to me. But yeah, Jeff Minter, you might have heard of him from Tempest 2000 that he made for the Atari Jaguar, and of course he did like some other games too. But very awesome game that was. Tons of graphical objects and everything, and it's hard to describe in a podcast, but basically it's tons of fun, and there's lots of chaos going around, and there was lots of particle effects on that system for it. Um, that was a system seller for the Atari Jaguar, was Tempest 2000. So he was making TXK for the VR, the PSVR, which TXK you can still get for the PS Vita, which is like a handheld PlayStation unit. And it's a lot like Tempest 2000, but it's like kind of like his own spin on it. But Atari came down on him pretty hard and said, no, you can't make this game anymore. And thankfully, they still let him sell it, but he was making like a VR experience for it, which I was really bummed to hear that Atari told him he couldn't do that anymore because they owned the original Tempest license. Um, but instead, he made this game. He's making his own kind of rendition of Polybius for the VR, which from the demos I've seen, it kind of looks like an even crazier version of Tempest. So, but we'll see. We'll see what the game's actually like. But it looks amazing. It looks like it's right in that same alley as Tempest 2000 and TXK. And that's coming out April 28th. So I'm buying it immediately. I'm buying it day one. Uh, Another cool game coming out is Invisible Hours, and that's like a VR movie type game, kind of like the Telltale games, basically like point and click kind of thing. Well, not point and click, but like basically like a story is going along, and you choose whether you want to say yes or no, or go to hell or I love you. You choose choices. And Invisible Hours is basically you're trying to solve the murder of who killed Nikolai Tesla. And like Thomas Edison is in the game and things like that. So it looks pretty interesting. So that's coming out. Syndrome is like a first person shooter kind of game, I believe. That's coming out for the PSVR. It was going to come out for the Oculus Rift first, but now it's coming out for the PSVR. I don't know what went down with that, but looks like a AAA game coming out for PSVR, which is great. This one I just saw a trailer for an hour before I shot or recorded this podcast, which is Crow: The Drowned Armory. I don't know when this game's coming out. They just said spring 2017. We're already in late April or mid-April, so I have no idea when this game's coming out, but it looked really cool. It's kind of like a sci-fi kind of game. It looks like it takes place in the, like daytime, like uh, and looked like yeah, actually from like the demo or the trailer I saw, it kind of looks like Clash of the Titans, which Clash of the Titans meets like the beginning of the newest Superman movie. So like cool new alien tech, but it's in like daylights and not like all like in blackness or whatever. I don't know, you know what I'm talking about. I don't know. And Symphony of the Machine, that looked like another cool game. I can't remember exactly what that game was like, but from the trailer I saw, but it looked pretty cool as well. It kind of reminded me of the movie Metropolis, the little bit I saw. And that was just because of the robot design. I could be confusing with something else too, but so don't quote me on it. Gollum. This looked like a really cool game. Uh, you basically you take control of this monster that walks around, and it kind of looked like Never-Ending Story, except like you become this golem or whatever. I don't know. It looked pretty cool, and that's coming out. I have no idea when, but they previewed that game before the PSVR even came out, so it should be coming out eventually. Psychonauts 2. I never played the original Psychonauts, but I know a lot of people are psyched up for it. Ace Combat. That's a fighter jet game. Originally, that whole game was going to be in VR. Since then, they have scaled back and backtracked, saying, "Oh no, we'll only make part of the game in VR, but you could still play the whole game in 2D." And that just the PSVR community is pretty upset by it because you can tell like they only did that just because they want to get the most money possible out of people. Like it's just really sad that like that was one of like the big games they were hyping up for the PSVR, and now they're just scaling it back just to try to make more money. Hopefully they make they make just as much content for the PSVR as they were going to before, but the bits that are going to be in there I bet are going to be really good. So it was going to be an instant buy for me, but now I'm just going to have to be a wait and see on it. And the same exact situation happened for the new Gran Turismo game. We'll just wait and see on that as well. Another cool game coming out is the newest, like the Alien Covenant VR experience. So Alien Covenant is coming out, I think in late April or May. No, it's coming out in May. So the Alien Covenant VR experience should be coming out like maybe next month sometime. And from the sounds of it, it kind of sounds like Alien Isolation, which would be badass. It's not going to be that long. Um, if it's not that long, I hope they make it free because there was like a Ghostbusters VR experience they made recently, and apparently that was really cool, but it was only like 10 minutes long. They charged like $7 for it, which is ridiculous. So hopefully they make it free if it is short, but chances are they won't because they did this for The Martian, which was another Ridley Scott game or movie. Um, and that game actually was pretty terrible from what I've read, but hopefully this one's a lot better. From the plot points I read, apparently you would actually walk around trying to investigate things, and an alien would actually be trying to kill you at the same time. So that is going to be badass just for what it is, and hopefully they make like an Alien Isolation 2 for PSVR. That I am all in because I'm a huge Alien fan. So, and there's going to be tons of other cool VR games that come out. Um, yeah, tons of other cool games. Uh, so yeah, I mean that's the PSVR. It doesn't replace normal games. I'm not saying it does, but it's simply like a whole new flavor at the moment, and will be the main form of video game entertainment eventually. Uh, Now, it's not going to be the main form of entertainment uh, until they lock it down to, and I'm not talking about like the Google Cardboard stuff, but like the same exact experience that you have in like a PSVR unit or a Vive or an Oculus Rift. They need to make that completely wireless. You don't need a multi-thousand-dollar computer to run it or, expensive PS4 to run it. Once they lock that down, um, then I do think that it's just going to take it's going to take place as like the main form of entertainment because once you try VR, you'll understand what I'm talking about. At least hopefully you'll understand because it's there's nothing else like it. There is nothing else like it. I I can't explain it exactly. Like you basically it's like the movie Tron. Like you are on the grid. I mean, it's like you are in a whole nother world. Like I don't know. I try to tell this people. I try to like if whoever you are that's listening and still skeptical, I'm actually physically trying to shake you right now through your headphones. Like it's a whole different experience. Okay? Just try it. Just try it, please. Okay? It's I if you still don't get it, I don't know how else to explain it to you. It, yeah, I've witnessed firsthand someone who's completely skeptical about everything VR and that VR has to offer. And as soon as I put on the VR headset on him and gave him the two Move controllers and sat him in front of the Until Dawn Rush of Blood game, he completely did a 180 and was like, wow, that is really cool. I mean, he was still like not like immediately ready to go rush out the door and spend like hundreds of dollars to get this thing, but still, like he was a believer after that. So there is hope. They just need to get the cost down a bit, and they need to increase the technology a little bit. You know, kind of like you know how cell phones used to be these like massive bricks, or like you had to carry them, like those huge things they had in like the military back in the 70s. You know, eventually cell phones got down to be like super duper small. So I think the same thing is going to happen for VR eventually. Um, so let me get to some tips and tricks. Um, because the you know with virtual reality you really need to learn these tips and tricks because it's not just like a turn on the television and you're good to go. Like you do need to know some things, at least for now. Take it slow. You need time to get used to it. Build up slowly each day. Trust me. Do not power through it if you are feeling queasy because it's your body is still trying to figure this out. So the reason why people get motion sickness is your body knows that you are sitting like or sitting or standing still, but you're moving around somehow. So your senses are getting confused, and that has how you get motion sickness. So if you take it slow, you will be preparing your body to understand what is happening. So like I know that you are wearing a headset and you're not actually there. You're actually where you're sitting or standing, but the back of your mind, there's something going on with the back of your mind. Your senses don't know this yet. Kind of like how, you know, like somebody can't just, I don't know, it's probably a terrible comparison, but, you know, not everyone can just pick up the piano and play it, you know, or of course nobody can pick up a piano. Not everyone can just sit down at a piano and play it. You have to first, you know, train your senses to know how to play piano. I'm not saying you have to like learn how to I'm not saying like this is like something like skill based, but you still need to take some time to let your senses understand that you are in VR. And trust me, it's worth it. I mean, I'm not saying it's anything hard. Just, you know, the first time you play it for 15, 20 minutes. Next time, play it for 30 or 40, and then after that, you should be pretty good. And each game is different too. Some games have no idea what they're doing. I know there's like one specific like Scavenger's Odyssey on the VR Worlds game. And that game, like you can just run around in all sorts of directions and really, really fast. And that game, you will get motion sickness. I think. I don't think there's really any way around it. But it's still really cool though. Another trick is have a fan aimed at you when you're playing it. This helps with the immersion as well as keeps the visor from fogging up. Don't wear glasses with it. Um, I know the PSVR has been touted as saying, oh, it's one of the only VR headsets that lets you wear glasses with it. Yeah, that is true. Like it physically lets you wear glasses with it, but you do need to wear corrective eyesight when you're wearing this thing. But if you can't wear contacts or whatever, you need to put something in place, like inside of it, some sort of foam or like a little door spacer or something. I don't know. Get creative with it. But don't just throw on the headset if you're wearing glasses if you can, because there's been many reports that the lenses actually on your glasses will actually scratch the lenses on the PSVR. You've been warned. But as long as you have some sort of spacer in there to make it so that the lenses don't touch each other, don't touch your glasses and don't touch the lens on the visor, you should be good. Um, Turn off your lights because there's tracking going on. Um, it might have trouble tracking you, and there might have screen drift. And I still have some screen drift. I'm honestly still trying to figure that out a little bit, but you don't notice screen drift whatsoever unless you're watching something in 2D in the PSVR. And in my opinion, some people really like the PSVR for 2D playing. I will only play it or use the PSVR if I'm playing something in VR because I'd rather watch my 4K television instead. But yeah, so turn off your lights because it helps with tracking and will help with the screen drift issue. And um, if you're playing it in the daytime and have a window, try to cover up as much of that sun as possible because that's going to interfere with the tracking of the lights. Um, Fully update everything, including firmware, and also go through tracking setups more than once if you switch position a lot in your room. It'll help a lot. Um, get a PS4 Pro, might as well. It is the future. It's not a bad deal after you trade in your current PS4, and if you have a PS4 and if you don't have a PS4 yet, it's only $100 more than a normal PS4 Slim or regular PS4. Um, it really does help. Like resolutions are, well, I mean, it's not going to immediately jump it to 4K or something on the PSVR, but um, the textures and stuff do get enhanced with many PSVR games. And yeah, it's just going to be a better experience for you. Just buy the Move controllers. Face it, you need them. They are cheaper right now for the most part, especially if you live in the USA. I know in Europe territories, I know they were saying that Move controllers are still kind of hard to run by, but if you live in the United States, they should be a little bit easier to find for you now. I was anticipating this happening, so I bought Move controllers before the VR came out, um, anticipating them going up in price a little bit. So I got one of my Move controllers for free because this game store near me, they just had like a million of them and they didn't think they would need them again. And I got a couple more of them from a pawn shop because they just didn't know what to do with them because it was old technology at the beginning with the PS3, but it's the exact same Move controllers for the PSVR. So if you have Move controllers for the PS3, um, then they're going to work with the PSVR, which is great. Um, Wait for sales on digital titles if you can. Just wait. There are some random deals that pop up on the PlayStation store now because they're trying to compete with Steam because Steam has so many sales. So if you can, wait for sales on digital titles. But if it's a game you really want, just go ahead and buy it. It's probably not going to be that big of a sale, maybe 10, 20%. But if there's like a lot of digital games that you want, just wait because recently there's been a whole bunch of sales on them. I don't know if there's a sale right now, but just kind of wait around for the title that you want and you'll probably get on sale a bit. Um, Physical titles, you should probably invest in getting the Best Buy Gamers Club Unlocked, which is like $25 for 2 years. And that you get 20% off all games, no matter how old or new they are. Or if you have Amazon Prime, you get 20% off as well, but that's only going to be for the first couple weeks that a game comes out. So, in my opinion, even if you have Amazon Prime, I think you should still get Best Buy Gamers Club Unlocked because most of the time you're not going to get games all the time as soon as they come out. You're going to be waiting a while. So yeah, so get one of those deals, and the physical titles for the PSVR are going to go down in price too. Um, Another thing to keep in mind, big time, is the breakout box on a PSVR doesn't support HDR, high dynamic range, which uh, you don't need HDR for the PSVR because that it doesn't have it. But if you are using an HDR television and you have the PSVR, um, whenever you're not using your PSVR, you're going to want to unplug the HDMI cable and plug it directly into your TV or whatever it is, because you it will not support HDR in all PS4 systems, PS4 Pro, PS4 Slim, regular PS4, they all can support HDR, but not if you're using the breakout box. So whenever you're not using the PSVR, just go ahead and unplug that one cable that says to PS4 or from PS4 and plug that directly into your television so you can get the HDR back. Um, if you don't have an HDR television though, then who cares? Do whatever you want. Um, And if you do have an HDR television, you are don't like the idea of unplugging cables all the time, you can buy like a switcher, like an HDMI switcher on Amazon. It's going to cost you around $20 or $30. Don't buy one that isn't powered. You need one that's actually powered. That way you're not going to lose any like image quality or anything. Um, if you want recommendations for one, just reach out to me on the Facebook group or page at facebook.com/virtual robots revolt or twitter.com virtual robots r or my Gmail account, which is, and I have my new business cards with me. I forgot to mention that. I got new business cards. I'm going to be passing them out at Retropalooza Houston. Yeah, so my business card, it says you can reach out to me at virtualrobotsrevolt@gmail.com. So if you want to reach out to the show, just go ahead and email me at virtualrobotsrevolt@gmail.com. Yeah, so and my YouTube channel, yeah, just since we're already on the topic, youtube.com/virtual robots revolt. So, yeah. Anyway, and if you're listening on YouTube, because I do plan on porting this podcast to YouTube, you can catch my podcast in their entirety on iTunes and Google Play. Yeah. So, if you want recommendations on a Switchbox, just reach out to me in one of those outlets. Um, I don't have one yet, but I am planning on getting one, and I've already talked to various Facebook groups about it. I actually am the admin for the Facebook group PSVR Fans Unite. Um, so yeah, reach out to me there too if you like. My name's Billy, so you'll see me on there. Um, uh, oh yeah, so this is a cool tip. Thanks to the new PS4 update, and I think I even mentioned this in the previous podcast. Thanks to the new PS4 update, you can play 3D Blu-rays on your PSVR. So if you don't have a TV anymore that plays 3D movies, or if you have a TV that plays 3D movies, but like your glasses broke, like I had these Samsung 3D stereoscopic glasses, and since I didn't charge them for like a year or two, uh, half of them don't work anymore, which sucks. Um, but now now since I have a PSVR, I know I'll always be able to play my 3D movies, just wearing my VR headset, which is great. And it looks amazing, and it really does seem like you're in a movie theater with it. Um, and this update applies to the normal PS4 or PS4 Pro or the PS4 Slim. So you can, if you have a PSVR and you have a PS4, have at it. You know, it's going to work it right out of the box. Just get a 3D Blu-ray and yeah, might want to check on fiddling with the settings afterwards, or though to set how much 3D you want on a movie. When you first set up a PSVR, I want to say it kind of guides you through this already. But if you want to increase the 3D depth, I think you need to go into the options somewhere, and you can fiddle with that as much as you want. Um, and but I need to do it myself, and and see how much I can get it better even. But I've actually tested a few 3D movies like Avatar on there, and they looked amazing. So, um, but yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have for today. Uh, I will for sure cover more PSVR discussions in the future, since it is one of my favorite things to do right now is use my PSVR. So this won't be the last you hear of me talk about the PSVR. I'm definitely going to go over that Farpoint when that comes out, as well as the Star Trek Bridge Crew and stuff. But yeah, let me know if there's something you want me to talk about in the future. I've already mentioned a bunch of my outlets earlier, but if just to repeat again, virtualrobotsrevolt@gmail.com, facebook.com/virtualrobotsrevolt, twitter.com/virtualrobotsr, or youtube.com/virtualrobotsrevolt, and podcast you can hear on iTunes or Google Play. Yeah, thanks so much for tuning in. Till next time. Peace.